Very good morning, dear students. And today we are going to discuss about the second important chapter, Theory of Consumer Behavior. So before going to discuss the different concepts of this chapter, first it is very essential to know what different concepts are given in this chapter. The first concept is utility, cardinal analysis and ordinal analysis. Second, the consumer's budget, budget set and budget line, changes in the budget set. Third, optimal choice of the consumer. And fourth concept, demand. It is very important. What is demand? How the demand curve is derived? Law of demand, indifference curves, normal and inferior goods, substitutes, complements, shift in demand curve, movement along the demand curve and shift in the demand curve. And fifth concept is market demand. How the market demand curve is derived with the help of numerical example. And sixth, elasticity of demand. So these are 6 important topics given in this chapter. So let us try to understand these all in detail. Friends, we all know that the behavior of an individual, that is very interesting. So we observe that people shopping in a market and all consumers do not buy the same good and in the same quantity. Why? Consumers make 100 decisions every day. What guides them? And some consumers purchase A set of commodities and others B set of commodities. How do they decide how much to purchase of each commodity? These all are very interesting things. What is the aim of the rational consumer in spending their income? So how they make a combination of different goods, and their main aim is to attain the goal of maximum satisfaction. Yes, the theory of consumer behavior, which threw light on how consumers spend their income to attain maximum satisfaction, and that is also with the help of limited income with different set of commodities. And this theory includes 2 parts, as we all know that, cardinal and ordinal analysis. So what cardinal includes and what ordinal includes? Cardinal analysis, which includes the very interesting point, that is utility. And the theory of consumer behavior itself includes 2 parts, cardinal utility analysis and ordinal utility analysis. What cardinal includes and what ordinal includes? The cardinal utility is measurable in a cardinal sense, that means in numbers, and the ordinal utility analysis measurable in an ordinal sense. Here the approach does not assign values, instead works with a ranking of preferences. And who developed the cardinal analysis and who developed the ordinal analysis? Later on we will discuss. Just try to understand what is cardinal and what is ordinal. Cardinal utility, that means assumes that we can assign the values, and ordinal, that that fails to assign values, but they give ranking preferences. On the basis of these all things, let us try to understand the meaning of consumer behavior theory. This theory explains the preferences and the limited income and set of combinations. So, this theory of consumer behavior include two parts. The first part is utility theory and second part is indifference theory. The first part is cardinal analysis and the second part is indifference analysis. Ordinal analysis, that is indifference analysis. Once again I will repeat, it includes two theories, cardinal theory, that is utility theory, ordinal theory, that is indifference theory. And utility theory assumes that preferences and choices of consumers are determined independently of income and price. So, that means income and price are the two main factors which determines, that is utility theory. And indifference theory assumes that when a given choice between two goods, a consumer is indifferent to the combination of goods, so long as the goods are in their basket, that means use of budget. Indifference theory which threw light on, that is combination of goods and use of budget. On the basis of these all, let us try to understand the meaning of utility. So, what is utility? In the ordinary language, utility is just usefulness. Then, what is utility in terms of economics? In terms of economics, utility is the capacity of a commodity which satisfies human wants. Once again I will repeat, what is utility? It is the capacity of a commodity to satisfy human wants, or want satisfying power of a goods and services is called utility. This is the very interesting one. Want satisfying capacity of a goods or services is called utility. So, what is utility? It is the want satisfying power of goods or services. So, this is the very interesting topic. So, different economists define utility in different terms. Just we will go through two. According to Professor Wong, utility is the power of a commodity or a service to satisfy human wants. Every commodity possesses utility and every service possesses utility. So, it is the power of a commodity or a service which satisfy human wants. And according to Fraser, on the whole in recent years, the wider definition is, that is nothing but with a desireness rather than with satisfyingness, more or less same. Come to the point, what are the characteristics of utility? Utility has no ethical or moral consideration or significance. Every commodity or every service possesses utility, whether moral or immoral, desirable or undesirable. Take for example, a knife has utility. It is very useful to a housewife to cut vegetables or fruits or cake or etc. But it has also a utility to kill her for stabbing somebody. That means it has no moral or ethical significance, no moral consideration. Second one, utility is psychological, 100%. Utility of a commodity, that depends upon consumer's mental attitude and assessment regarding its power to satisfy his a particular want. If take for example, some are fond of apples and others are fond of mangoes and others are fond of bananas, etc. Some are fond of vegetarian food and others are fond of non-vegetarian food. So it means the utility of a particular commodity or a service depends upon their mental attitude. So utility is psychological. Third one, utility is always individual and relative. So utility of a commodity differs in different situations in relation to time and place. Once again I will repeat. Utility of a commodity differs in different situations in relation to time and place. Example, a person may find more utility in woolen clothes during the winter than the summer in Kashmir or in Mumbai. That means he get more utility in Kashmir or zero utility in Mumbai. So utility is always individual and relative. A fourth, utility does not mean usefulness. So every commodity possesses utility, and having the ability to satisfy a want. A commodity may have utility, but it may be useful or it may not be useful. So utility is not necessarily equated with usefulness. It means utility does not mean usefulness. So take for example, cigarette has utility to the smoker but injurious to health. So liquor is not useful commodity but it satisfies the want of drunkard. So demand for a commodity depends on its utility rather than usefulness. So fifth, utility cannot be measured objectively. Utility is a subjective concept. It is not objective. It cannot be measured. So utility being a subjective phenomena or feeling cannot be expressed in numerical terms. Take for example, 1 apple gives, that is 10 units of satisfaction. 2 apple gives 20 units of satisfaction. It's not like that. So utility is subjective and it is not objective. And sixth one, utility that depends upon the intensity of want, 100%. So intensity is the very important factor. So take for example, a want which is unsatisfied and greatly intense will imply a high utility for the commodity concerned to a person. The more of a thing we have, the less we want it. So it depends upon the intensity of want. And utility does not mean pleasure. We take for example, an injection, medical treatment, no doubt 100% is very useful for the patient. So on the one hand, and on the other hand, that is pleasure, zero. No one is ready to take, that is injection. That means with full of joy or happiness. So utility is different from pleasure. And utility does not mean satisfaction. So these two are interrelated, but they have not been considered as the same in strict sense. Utility does not mean satisfaction. So utility refers to expected satisfaction, and satisfaction denotes realized satisfaction. Difference is there. Expected satisfaction and realized satisfaction. So before the consumption and after the consumption, satisfaction which derived after the consumption. So this is the very interesting thing. So these are the different characteristics of utility. And come to the next very interesting point, different forms of utility. What they are? They are form utility, place utility, time utility and service utility. What is form utility? By changing the form of the commodity or by changing the shape of the material, more utility can be created. Once again I will repeat, form utility. That means by changing the form or shape of the commodity, more utility can be created. Take for example, a log of wood has no utility to an individual, but when carpenter makes tables and chairs, more utility is added. So this is the form utility. And place utility. Utility is created by transporting goods from one place to another place. You take for example, Kashmiri apples, Nagpur oranges. So are more popular and fetch higher prices in other parts of the country. So we can create more utility by transferring the goods from one place to another place. So this is about the place utility. And come to the third one, time utility. So more utility can be created or added by storing goods over a time. When goods are available in plenty, they have less utility. But when they are scarce, more utility can be created. By storing food grains at the time of bumper harvest and releasing their stocks for sale at the time of scarcity, then definitely more utility can be created. Fourth, service utility. It is created in rendering personal services to the customers by various professionals such as doctors, lawyers, teachers, bankers, actors, etc. Service utility is very important. So these are the different concepts related to the term utility. What is utility? Want satisfying power of a commodity. So there are different characteristics of utility. Utility does not mean usefulness, it does not mean satisfaction. It differs from place to place, person to person and time to time. Example, it differs from person to person. Example, music has no utility to a deaf person and differs from time to time. That means umbrella has a greater utility in rainy season and less in other season. Then place to place, just we discussed, that is apples and oranges. So in this way, the utility is a very interesting factor, and there are 4 types of utility just we discussed: form, place, time and service utility. So friends, go through these all points. So on the basis of the term utility, we'll discuss the other interesting concepts of this chapter in the next session. Take care, stay happy.